The incense skews sweet, like a bruise salted open. Smoke wets the gold that hangs over us, a sun punched full of little wounds where wax has run and dried. I keep my hands tucked into my sleeves so I don't smear ash across the icon and earn a strike from the warden's baton. The chant hums in my throat because everyone around me hums. The question sits behind my teeth like a cracked seed. By the time the bells have turned again, the line shuffles one body forward and I with it, knees prickling, a back prickling, the censor's skull sighing tar across my tongue. I count along with the tiles, a habit from the stamping floor. 3 green, 1 black, 3 green. A lady in the front row sobs every other breath, regular as a piston. A child somewhere laughs once and is smacked quiet. The gold face above the altar stares into the smoke and does not blink. I fix my gaze on the hinge of the confessional so I won't think about the question pressing for daylight. A warden moves past, visor down, he blank but for the little ribbed vowels of a vox. His glove taps shoulders into straighter lines. His armor thuds like a door slammed on thought. The old man ahead of me fingers a shrink-wrapped wafer until the oil prints show. He spits into his palm and rubs at some grime on the saint's stamp, as if polishing it will change what it means. When his turn comes, he leans into the grill like into a lover's carton, eyes closed, lips busy. The red light above the booth's lip burns steady, and when the green edges up around it, he steps away lighter. The light goes back to red. 3 green tiles, 1 black. I rub my tongue along the ridge of an old break in my molar and feel the little burr my last foreman left me. Names thicken my spit, my foreman, my sister, the brother who went down into airless tunnels and came back a name on a slate, but I don't say them. The chant winds through the air, heavy as bedclothes, tucking us in. I was taught the words like I was taught to keep my head out of a press. Cold mornings, cotton wool of breath, chalk on the catechist's fingers, knuckles wrapped for missing a beat. It is not the words I forget, it is the shape my mouth makes when I try to fit around them. Ahead, the woman with the cracked nail bed pushes her tokens through the slot and waits for the click. A click that is the same as the one that means bread has been bought, and stamped a click that is the same as the one that means you may live another day. I watch the little lever rock back. The wafer comes. She does not eat it here. She pinches it and slides it inside her sleeve. The warden turns his blank face toward me as if he can feel something heat the air around my head. I look down. Tile, 3 green, 1 black. I press my thumbs into the blue bruise of my wrist until it stops itching. The bell turns again. It is my turn. I put my tokens in the groove. They scrape the metal like teeth. The grill is a little mouth with its lips of mesh. Inside smells of old breath and oil. I kneel so my face is level with the black. The red light warms my forehead. Speak. The grill hums. I swallow. The chant behind me can't get through the mesh. It is a rocking without sound. On my exam day for the stamping floor, the overseer held up different shapes and asked us to name them. I learned that the name you give a thing can crush you if it's not the one the overseer wants. The mesh twists its little diamonds. The red light hums. Blessed be his name, I start because my mouth knows the path. My tongue goes where it always goes. Guide my hand. Set my foot. Forgive my... The word sin aches in my tooth. My murk, I finish using the old district term I grew up with, too small to be trouble, too familiar to be flagged. State failure, the grill says. It is a woman's voice strung across a wire. I could say I didn't keep to shift. I could say I lifted a bolt from the store to use as a spoon. Everyone says versions of that. The light would green and I would swallow a wafer and the question would go on scratching me from the inside until some other day. My face presses too tight to the mesh. I feel its little cuts ready to write themselves on me. The question moves in my throat. If he sees, I say, and the air goes thin around my head, why doesn't he look? The red light does not change. The skull scent thickens. The world seems to lean. I lick my lips. The mouth of the booth tastes of metal. I try to keep the order. I do the words. I do them as I was taught. I scrub, I stamp. But he doesn't look. My hands climb my ribs and spread to show the space they can't cover. Cora had a baby last month, and the baby slept forever. It had a face like a seed. We poured powder. We sang. We lit. He didn't look. If he sees all, why doesn't he look where it hurts? I wait. The chant against the walls fuzzes like a sound underwater. The red smears into the mesh. State failure, the grill says again, very careful, very kind. I have a question, I say, and that is when something inside the walls turns its head. The mesh prickles my lips. I press closer as if the answer lives behind the black. Footsteps tick the floor behind the booth, small, light, not warden heavy. Even the sensor swings and makes a new smoke that smells sharper. My tongue curdles. State failure, the grill says a third time. The word state less a word and more a blade. I can hear that someone else is listening too, that the voice has watchers behind it, that my breath fogs a sheet of glass not there before. I think of my sister kneeling in this very line last winter, her hands chapped, scab flecks like salt along her knuckles. She came out with green above her. She smiled a little smile that meant the machine had fixed inside her what needed fixing. She stepped into the street and a loader snapped and kissed her shoulder to jelly. It took her saint's grip and it took her shoulder. The loaders have no eyes. We called the saints to bless the welder's arms. The loader took another man 2 days later like gluttony. We sang. We sang. My tongue makes the question again. I have a question, I say louder. The booth opens a chamber I do not see, and the scent goes electrical. The skin along my forearms thinks it's being touched by insects. What is question, the grill whispers, and now it's not a woman or a wire, it is a place. Something hungry strokes the back of the words like a hand testing the meat of fruit. Why doesn't he look where I am, I say. And the sound is a wound. A click comes from deep inside the booth. Not the kind for bread. The red light brightens, thins to a needle. Something whispers through the mesh like teeth clicking. My tokens grind in their chute and do not come back. Remain kneeling, the voice says. My knees are stone. The incense is a wall poured through my nose into my head. The chant stops. I do not hear any bodies move, and the not moving is worse than if they jostled. The hinge makes no sound as the small side panel slides out. A sliver of polished steel breathes across my skin. It touches the soft inside of my elbow. Remain, says the voice. I watch the little tube with the hunger humming in it. I could pull my arm back. I do not. The tube kisses, cold flows. I taste metal without eating. I grip the mesh and it prints diamonds in my palms. Time which had been a ribbon laid across the room frays. The green that should bless me does not. The skull's eyes above the altar burn tiny, and they seem to turn toward me, but like fish in a jar, not like eyes. There is a movement behind me and the sound of a man being lifted and set aside. The warden's boots stand where he had stood. Remain, the voice says softer, as if even it would whisper in the presence of whatever has opened its mouth in the walls. I try to pull breath into my chest and it is like drawing oil up a wick. My heart scrapes. The panel slides back. It leaves a wet cool behind, a whisper of a bite. I wait for the soft clack of the absolution stamp. It doesn't come. What comes is the siren no wider than 2 fingers. A whistling like a baby's suck, a coil unspooling red above the booth. and the hush in the room makes the red loud. Somewhere the child who laughed begins to howl. Hands take my upper arms. The grip is polite, like when the foreman catches you before a press can shear you. The booth's mesh is still against my face. The voice from the grill sings one single note and cuts out. They pull me up and my knees forget how to be knees. The warden's smell of machine oil and priest fruit. A glove tilts my head, looks at my eyes as if waiting for a light that does not arrive. Someone checks the inside of my elbow and peels back a bit of skin with a quick, exact pinch. When the glove comes away, the inside of my arm is stamped in purple, the shape still warming into itself, not letters I know, not numbers. Something like a spoked wheel with one spoke gone. I try to say, "Excuse me, it's a wrong booth." I tried to say the words, "I came for the wafer." A thumb touches the soft under my chin and tells me without words to keep my mouth clean of words. The people in the line fix their eyes on tiles. The hinge of the confessional glints like a wet blade. The gold face up high lifts its hands in a gesture that was meant to be welcome. I have always been told now it is a stop, a blessing that is a block in the road. They guide me. I can walk, so I do. A girl I sometimes see on the stamp floor looks at my shoes and not at my face. We cross the nave. The skull sensor bumps my shoulder in its slow pendulum, leaves a kiss of ash. The warden's boots say nothing. That is their language. Outside, the light is leaky yellow. A drizzle of metal dust drifts from the ceiling where the air sheds cough, and it tastes like filings. My mark stings. I want to scratch it. The glove that was under my chin stays close enough to remind me not to. They bring me not to a cell, but to a van that looks like a prayer book without writing, black and clean. Inside, the light is white-blue. The bench has straps, but they do not strap me. A woman sits opposite, her head shaved clean so the skin shows the little dips and rises over the skull. She wears no symbols. She wears no mouth, I think, before I see she does. She simply does not use it. She studies me the way a mirror does. There's a small patch of shine on my sleeve where the ash kissed, and it will not be brushed off. I try not to itch the wheel on my arm. Am I? I begin, and my tongue balks because the words we have for trouble are old and solid like stove bricks. This trouble has no name that I've ever had to use. The van grumbles. The road is not paved, it runs over the packed ribs of the understreets. Each jolt sets the stamp on my arm a little deeper. Across from me, the woman blinks once. Say the beginning of the hymn. The voice comes from somewhere above us, not hers. A tin bird in a ceiling seam. I say the beginning. I say the whole. My mouth knows the shapes. The words feel like steps I have walked 1,000 times, but today the staircase changes its angle under me. I end the hymn with my tongue numb. I am sweating so much that it runs into my eyes and slurs the inside of the van. The woman puts her hand out, palm up, as if asking for a coin. I look at the mark on my arm. It glows a little, maybe, or maybe that is the light. She makes a gesture with her fingers. At first, I think she rubs them together the way we do when we beg for oil. But then I see she is drawing a circle that has no hinge, and then another cross through it, and then a dot where they kiss. She tilts her head. I understand she has asked me something and that my not answering will be a failure greater than saying the wrong thing. I asked, I say. My teeth click soft, the way the servant's skull had clicked. I asked why he does not look. Her face goes smooth in a way that is not meaning, but the wiping away of meaning. She raises her hand again. I flinch. She only points at the straps on the bench. They do not strap me. They do not need to. I could not run through the van walls. I could not run through the warden's gloves. I could not run through smoke. I look down at my fingers and try to push them straight. They bend back. We stop. The doors open. The air is cooler here, cleaner. It smells of water, a thing I've known only in thin pipes and on festival days. The room inside has no saints, no gold. The walls are painted a color like bone left in the sun a long time. A machine sits in the center with arms like a stripped tree. It hums a low note and the hair along my arms lifts as if the machine has a storm inside it. I sit in the chair because the woman with no words taps the armrest and nods oh so slightly. The straps lie flat, open hands. State failure, the ceiling bird says, because that is how this room understands the world. I tell it in the only way I know. I cannot make my mouth fit around what is required, I say, throat raw. I do, but it isn't done. I think, and the thought is crooked. My thought, I would call it doubt, but even that word feels larger than I am allowed. Describe misalignment, the ceiling bird says, full of patience, as if I am a child whose shoe has been put on the wrong foot. My thought does not go soft when told to. It keeps a point, I say. I look at my knees, which have stopped being knees and become two separate disappointments wrapped in cloth. I am tired, I say, too loud and too honest. And I flinch from my own sound. The woman takes my marked arm and lays it gently along the chair spine. She touches the wheel on my skin and it becomes not a bruise but something that knows it is a sign. She nods at the machine and steps away. The arms come down like a blessing. They do not cut. They do not spike. They do not do the things I expected trouble to do. Pads touch my temples. Pads touch my wrists. A visor slides toward my face and stops just above my eyes. Light through milky glass hovers. Begin recitation, the bird says. I begin. The voices that answer me fill the room. They fill me, actually, that is how it feels. A thin tone that makes my teeth sing, a low one that lays a hand on my chest and holds me to the chair. The words they feed into my ear are the same I learned with chalk and frozen fingers, but they come at me from both sides, so I cannot find the edge of them. I speak, and they speak me quicker. When my tongue falters, they lift me, and the feeling of being lifted is almost tender. My heart gallops against the strap that is not there. Heat crawls down my arm where the wheel lies. The visor's light swells. Images arrive, not memory, not dream, a sidewalk, a pot, a knife, a pair of hands that can hold and crack, not mine. A sun that is not made of gold foil stuck to smoke. A field of something bright, a field of something burning, a chair with straps, a chair without. When you say he does not look, you mean no, the voices say. It threw me. I mean, yes, I try to argue, and the machine lifts me and lays me down like a cloth being folded the right way. The smell of clean water grows sharp, like the point on a needle. It is in my mouth now. I choke on it. My clothes stick to me. The woman touches a dial, and the touch is not for me, yet my skin ripples. Correct, the voices say. Name the place, they say. My mouth opens and says, here. And the sound it makes is not mine, is a bell struck under the floor. Correct, they say again. They sound pleased. That is the worst thing so far, the pleasure in the tone. It is a kindness that is a wall. They make me say every beginning of every hymn. Then they change the order of the words, slip them past one another like cards, and make me keep them stacked neat when everyone wants to fall. They put the question back into my mouth and make me spit it out in a shape they prefer. They do this not with pain. They do it with weight. Once in the press room, a pallet shifted and leaned its edge into my shin. It did not break me. It told me what it would do if I did not move. That is what this feels like. A thing bigger than me presses just enough. It does not need me to be crushed. It needs me to know there is such a thing as crushing. When they let the light ease, I clutch the chair with my knees and do not know I am doing it until the woman pries my knees open with her hands, clinical, patient. in the way you would open the beak of a little bird to see if it is eating. She tips a small cup of water into my mouth. It tastes of stone and iron and something green I must have eaten as a child once and then never again. It hurts to swallow. It feels like my mouth has been too long in smoke and forgotten there was anything else to be. The markers will fade, the bird tells me, its wire still sweet. Repeat the absolution to conclude. I repeat. The words slide easier now, and they have been smoothed like stones in a tumbler. I stand because the chair releases my wrists. The stamp on my arm is not less purple. It is more. It glows a trace that catches on its ridges. It hurts to make a fist and to uncurl it. The woman hands me a wafer in a paper twist. It is bigger than the ones from the booth. I take it. My hands are clean. I do not know when that happened. I do not remember water touching them. The wafer smells of nothing. Outside, the air is dirtier and kinder, and the van's blackness takes me back to streets I know. A boy runs past with a string and a can on it, making the can sing against a wall. The can sings like the siren in the booth. I flinch. He does not notice. The woman rides across from me again. She looks at me as if remembering exactly the portion of me that could be lifted and held under. What will happen? I ask her, because I have enough breath for that much. She blinks again, and she raises one finger and then presses it to the place just above her sternum where the rib cage meets and knots. She waits until my eyes meet her finger. She nods once. She stands when the doors open. They do not bring me back to the shrine. They let me out by the steam market. The pipes rattle their wet cough. The stallers call words I know: meat, bread, clean rags, nails. And a man with a mercy brand on his cheek gives me a look that lands on my stamped arm and wishes to look someplace else. My legs take me in the direction of my hab. The walk is what it always is. Low arches with old mold patterns like maps to places you are not allowed to go. Chalk lines from children's counts the sound of boots above like distant thunder. My mouth runs the absolution against the back of my teeth without me telling it to. It slips in between the beats of my steps. Eat a second heart. At my door, I find the shred of yellow paper folded and tucked under the latch. The script is the hard hand of an overseer. It tells me my shift has been brought forward a bell. It tells me to report in a clean coverall. At the bottom is a smear where a seal was pressed and lifted before it set, as if the sender thought better of finishing the mark and then finished it anyway. Inside, the room is neat because I left it so. A bowl sits on the shelf. I'm turned upside down over last night's bread stub to keep the drips off. I lift the bowl and the stub is molded in lace where it met the wood. I pick the lace away and make a ball of what's clean. My stomach has no space for it. I put it in my pocket. I stand by the sink. I look down. My hands are clean as before. The purple wheel inside my elbow throbs. It has a small whitish dot now at the missing spoke, like a seed that thinks about pushing. Someone in the corridor is singing very softly and very wrongly, slipping half a note every line. I cannot tell if they are trying to learn the words or to forget them. When I press my thumb into the wheel, the room shifts just a little. It is as if I have moved a large thing in my head a finger's width and everything else has agreed to the new position. The air finds a new place in my lungs. I think. He did not look. And then I think. He is looking. And between the two thoughts, a dry flicker crosses. At shift, the boss checks my papers without speaking to my face. He looks at the purple and then at the tile. He stamps me in. The stamp settles under my own skin, companion to the other, the two of them humming when I flex. Machines throb. People keep to their box of space. An old woman hums the half-note song wrong and cuts it off short when she realizes what she is doing. The press does not know doubt. It knows pressure, pressure, its release. My mouth speaks during the break. It speaks the words as if it always did. The others look at their boots. I break my bread into my drinking tin and make paste. I swallow the paste in small, quick moves so as not to waste a drip on the floor. Each swallow shakes the little white dot at the missing spoke. It gets brighter when I think that. At the end, the bells turn long. We are loosed. The corridor outside the floor crawls with bodies that smell of work. I walk in their river and do not bump a shoulder. The songs that float over us are the sanctioned ones. My head nods along. I do not tell it to. The wardens' helmets ride the edges of the crowd like fish moving with a school, sleek, inevitable. They are beautiful, I think. And then I do not think that. And then thinking and not thinking join hands and skip down the corridor like children who've learned a new game from a mouth bigger than theirs. At the shrine corner, the censor's skull swings. A new attendant stands with a long pole and keeps the smoke moving. They have scrubbed the booth's hinge so hard it shines, and the shine shows fingerprints no eye meant to leave. The booth's red eye is out. A boy touches the mesh with reverent forefinger and jumps a little when he is rapped on the knuckles for it. He grins at the sting and looks at the gold sun and looks away because the sun looks back like a hole. I pass. The smoke threads my clothes. The wheel inside my skin tugs once, twice, as if measuring distance. On my bunk later, I turn my arm so the mark sits exactly under the ceiling's one good light strip. It glows a little. My mouth moves against the pillow, the words forming themselves into the right shapes like clay kneaded warm. I hold the wafer in my other hand. I have not eaten it. I fit it to the place on my tongue where the burr catches. It sticks. It dissolves slow as if to last longer than night. I close my eyes. The chair is still in my bones, and the weight presses just lightly, enough for my ribs to remember a wider angle they might have chosen and did not. The world continues to hum. The last thing is not a thought. It is the little crisp sound the paper twist makes as I fold it flat, slide it between the pages of my workbook, and push the book back under the bunk so only a corner shows. The corner is dog-eared from other nights. It scratches my thumb when I reach for sleep.